Hey, welcome back. It's Don again out here. And last episode, we wrapped up the primering of the entire tub, the fenders, and the hood. And overall, I think it went pretty good. Oh, not you again.
Yeah, afraid it's me again, man.
So listen, you think everything went all well and good, but you were driving us all nuts with your sanding and you're looking and you're finding another little spot. I mean, come on, man. You're taking this a little to the extreme. In my own defense, man, you saw some of those spots. They needed to be fixed. It wasn't obsessive compulsive behavior. It was fixing the paint job.
Yeah, I got you. It's all worth it in the end when paint gets on this thing.
Do you think you're going to live long enough to get paint on this thing? Do you think our audience is going to live long enough?
All right. I'm out of here, man.
How about you just
Carry
get on
on.
here? Let me
I'll be
talk
back
to these folks for a minute. I'm sorry about that. I don't know why that guy keeps showing up, man. Anyway, it's time to get started back on the underside of this thing. We're going to go after that front differential. I'm going to start working on brakes again. I'm going to get all this paper off this thing, rolled up and thrown in a recycle bin so I'm not tempted to start painting again. So let's dive into it and get this done. Okay, so when I started down the road of rebuilding this old Jeep, I was not sure I was ready to start down the road. And let me explain. I thought that there were some big challenges out there. Number one challenge that I was really worried about was the cost of doing this project. I wasn't sure I had the cash flow to do this. And if I did it, I wasn't sure whether or not it would be a good spend at the end of the project. So I thought that was one of the major challenges to doing something like this. One of the second challenges I thought would be really big was the technical aspect of getting the work done. I thought to myself, do I know enough to deal with every aspect of this thing as I go through it, and do I have the mechanical chops to do this job? And you know what, at the end of the day, I'm starting to realize that neither of those two challenges were the two big challenges, were the big challenge to this thing. The money kind of takes care of itself. You can spread it out over time. And assuming you're still collecting a paycheck, you can buy stuff here and there. Some of the big expensive things that I bought on this Jeep, where I had to replace the tub and the fenders, the windshield frame, you may not be in a position where you have to replace all that stuff, so it's not that was a good chunk of the budget right there. And as far as the technical aspect of it goes, I think most guys or gals who are willing to turn a wrench have the ability to, if they can take something apart, can generally put it back together. Now, if you can't, or you're not very comfortable with that, there's guys out there who've put together the tools you need to help you through that process, like the Jeep Rebuilder's Manual here. It takes you through every major system of this Jeep and shows you how to disassemble it, put it back together. So it's not the money that makes this a tough project. It's not the technical side of it that makes it a tough project. It's the keeping your enthusiasm through to the end part that's tough. Some days you just looking at the same thing over and over and over, and it's not changing, or you're working on small parts of the rig that are not having any real impact on the total project moving forward. Rear brakes is a good example. I've been putting off the rear brakes on this thing forever because it's just boring, tedious work to me, and I've always hated doing rear drum brakes. And I know that at the end of the day, I'm going to pull the tire off and I'm going to spend a couple hours down sitting on the bench getting all that twiddly stuff put back together. I'm going to put the tire back on there. We're never going to see that again. There's not going to be any real gratification that comes with that. So, that's one of those jobs that you have to do, but it doesn't really get you excited because it's not visibly getting you closer to the end. And all of this body prep work has been that way to some degree. I mean, I looked back on how many videos I've done during this process, and it's like 5 or 6 of them. Now they're not, ginormously long, but it's been a slog getting through this. I'll be honest with you. I was starting to get a little discouraged. So here's what you have to do every so often is you got to step back. You got to feed your psyche, okay? You got to put the thing together and have a look at it and go, that's right, that's what I'm working for. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Words don't get what I'm trying to say here. Let me show you. So what I did is I set the hood up on the fenders, I put on the windshield frame, and now I can stand back and I can see a CJ-5 here again. I mean, I can see if I get far enough back, and I can't go too far back because the car's in the garage, but I can see the whole rig. I can see the wheels, the suspension, the tub, the windshield. I can start to visualize me back in this thing, doing a trail down in Moab, doing what I love to do the most, which is just hang out of the doorway here and watch the wheels go over the rocks and all that kind of stuff. So this served no practical purpose whatsoever, setting the hood up on here. I haven't put the hood hinges on. The fenders are just loosely bolted on. The grill is just sitting up there with about 2 bolts holding it to the fenders, and the hood is literally just sitting on there. And the only reason I did that was to make me feel better about the project. So don't be embarrassed to do that from time to time. If you just need a little mental pick-me-up, just remember why you're doing it in the first place. And for me, I've just loved these things from the first time I drove one. So that's all I wanted to say today. I just wanted to share that with you, how I keep myself motivated to keep this project moving along. Okay, this fascinating little bit of work we're going to do here is called putting the differential cover back on. I don't know if you can really tell, but inside of the carrier there is the Lock-Right locker, and that's kind of a ratcheting locker in there. So if you have, it's technically kind of locked up all the time, but there's these short kind of gears or cogs that hook together that are spring loaded, and so as one wheel needs to turn independently of the other one, you will sometimes hear a little clicking noise out of that front locker. But if you're trying to climb something and you're applying power to both of those, or to the front axle, it's kind of forcing those gears to stay meshed, and that's how that locker works. So that's a mechanical Lock-Right locker we've got inside of this thing. So you'll notice I didn't goop this up with a bunch of Permatex or anything like that. I'm just putting a brand new gasket in there. And I've cleaned up my bolts. I've cleaned up my differential housing cover here. I think it turned out pretty good after I cleaned it all up. At first it had a little paint on it and it was looking kind of nasty. So then basically we just hand tighten everything all the way around this thing. And then I referred to my Jeep Rebuilder's Bible for the torque settings for the front of the Dana 30 front axle for that cover is 25 foot-pounds. So we bust out the trusty torque wrench, even though this is a 1/2 inch drive with an adapter on it, and I really should have a 3/8 inch drive. But just torque these down to 25 pounds, work my way all the way around in a circle around the cover, tighten everything down, and that's about all it takes to put this thing back together. Okay, so this next part is highly technical. It's the pouring in of the gear lube. So you just cut the end off the little tube on the end of this thing and pop the cover off. You have to take the lid off, and there is a sealed cover over the gear lube. But you just basically squirt it in there until you fill that thing up to the bottom of the hole. So what I do is I'm just squirting a bunch in, give it a second, squirt a bunch more. There are adapters you can put on these things so you can pump the grease in or the gear lube in without having to kind of point the bottle up like this. But I didn't have any problem getting this thing filled up. And when you tell you're full is when a little bit just kind of wants to dribble back out of the hole after you've stopped pouring everything in there. So pretty much takes a quart and everything. You can kind of empty one of these bottles out in there, and you can see that as I wipe this off, I get just a little bit of gear lube kind of wanting to run back out. That tells us we're full. So that's it. Basically fill your pumpkin up with oil and put your plug back in, grab a crescent wrench, tighten that thing down, you got this project whipped. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a wrapper on this for now. I've got to take a road trip, so I'll be missing a few days, and I'll catch up with you when I get back. But we're gonna leave this as it is for now. I did put a paper towel on the floor directly under here. So if we do get any leaks, we'll notice those right off the bat because we hate leaks. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching. And the next time you come back and we're sure we don't have any leaks in this pumpkin, then we'll go ahead and get that tie rod and that drag link put back on this thing. So I'll see you next time around. Thanks for watching.